Okay, we all know who this is. I usually been trying to steer away from videos as of late since I've been shadow banned by YouTube. They've been taking subscribers away. A lot of views has been taken away. It's not like I'm making money. And a lot of my stuff is very much so you can't find it. You know, so YouTube in its infinite wisdom, despite I have been banned, I've been suspended probably more than a dozen times in the last couple of years. So I guess the algorithm or somebody decided they just had enough of me, and they pretty much took care of any kind of YouTube I'm to be doing in the future. So it's like, okay, whatever, you know. Okay, right? It's like, you can pretty much kiss my ass. Oh, why? What's going on here with this page? I'm trying to show you guys something here. Wow, okay. So there was a question. This is kind of cool. We all know that Jeff is National Guard. We all know this. I've said this in many, many, many videos, a lot of videos. Because, you know, I get a lot of these 101st Airborne, these Special Forces guys, all this other stuff. So they're all like, oh, you know, you're just not who I know. But anyway, I was in the Guard probably before 90% of my general audience is probably even born. Going all the way back in the early 60s. I mean, 60s. Early 80s. So, there was a question, and it's a legit question. Legit question. It's not about the election. It's not about Trump. It's not about liberals. So we're not even going to even go there. Okay? We're not even going to go there. This video is actually about some of the things I did in the Guard. And this one guy asked, what are the gnarliest things you've seen happen in the National Guard? All right. We all know for a fact that the National Guard, especially in the early, the time when I was in the 80s and 90s, these guys had a bad reputation of not being safe, taking shortcuts. We had junk equipment, worn out equipment you couldn't get parts for. You know, it was bad enough trying to get fuel for everything. I was in a mechanized infantry unit, mechanized. We drove around in 113s. I'm going to be showing you pictures of it. The 113 APCs. At the time, we had Gamma Goats and Jeeps. We had 2.5-ton trucks, the Deuces, which dated back in the 50s. And we never had anything like 5 tons. That was not until decades later. We didn't have Bradleys until the late 90s. So we had 113s, we had Gamma Goats, we had Jeeps, we had Cut Vs. A Cut V is, of course, is a Army version of a Blazer, Chevy Blazer. So, and we had a couple of old M46 Dusters, 40 millimeter Dusters that they used during the Vietnam War. But they said, well, what's the gnarliest things? Well, I've seen a lot of gnarly things happen. I've seen a lot of accidents happen. I've seen people get messed up, and I've seen some people get killed, actually, while in the National Guard. Because, you got to remember that we don't have the same discipline that the regular Army have. Our safety NCOs for everything we do, including movement, ranges, it's just all jacked up. It's just soup sandwich disaster. So anyway, one of the gnarliest things I've ever seen happen while I was in the National Guard is way back in the Wayback Machine, says Sherman and Peabody. Way back, oh my God, look at my forearm. We was at Fort Irwin. Okay. Let's see if we can find something about Fort Irwin on my computer. Fort Irwin. Fort Irwin is in California. Okay, guys? And Fort Irwin, it's, the NTC, and being in the California National Guard, naturally, we are going to go and train in Fort Irwin. And it was almost every stinking weekend Okay, here we go. I'm going to take the camera. This is Fort Irwin. Okay, this is out in the Mojave Desert, located in San Bernardino, California. So this is the main base itself, but we was all out in here, all way out in the desert. So he's doing a lot of desert stuff. Okay, so driving from Glendale, we drive our deuces all the way out there. We didn't have buses yet. We did not have buses. And we're going to go out there, and we have some of our 113s are actually based out there. We have 113s based in Camp Roberts, and we have 113s based out of Fort Irwin just for California National Guard, the mechanized infantry, which was the first of the 160 at that time. So, let's see. Let's take a look at some Fort Irwin stuff. I don't think so. So anyway, here's what the entrance to Fort Irwin looks like. You're going to love this. I remember when half of these rocks were not even painted at the time. But other visiting units would come in and they would paint on this big rocky thing. And I don't see the 82nd anywhere because they came in and we had a 3-week AT with them. Well, anyway. So, we go out there, and we're going to have some war games. I forgot which war games it was. I think it was in 1984 we had war games out there. 83, 84. I know for a fact that 82 was Gallant Eagle. And that was against the 82nd Airborne. So anyway, we go rebopping in. We go and get our APCs. And we do PMCs. This is what an APC looks like. This is a 113 for all you civilians. Okay, now guys, you got to bear with me because I absolutely suck at making videos, and these guys can put some really cool shit in there with slides and everything. So I got to do it the old-fashioned way. Okay. Anyway. So I go and get my vehicle. Actually, I wasn't driving. So our driver and our TC designated for our vehicle. He goes and brings the vehicles, and we all load up inside it. Okay, we all load up inside. There was 6 of us. Okay, we all climb aboard. This is where the TC's at with the gunner. The driver's right there. Going through the back way or the hatch walls, we go inside. We stand up on these benches. And since the ramp is open and locked in, we just stand up on the sides here. 3 of us here, 3 on the other side, right? So we go throw all our duffel bags, all that other stuff inside. We're ready to rock and roll. We're going to go rolling out. And because we're National Guard, if the regular Army saw what we were doing, they would be losing their minds. Okay, they'd be freaking out. Because when we take off, the only 2 people that had any kind of protective headgear was the TC and the driver. They had those friggin' CBC helmets with they're plastic, and they got the microphone that's plugged into the radio, and then the driver has one freaking here, just saying, "Hey, driver, turn left, turn right, go up this way, park it under that tree." So. And the rest of us dumbasses was wearing soft caps, beanies, pile caps, being stupid. Because, we're driving around the back of this thing and going out in Fort Irwin. They got roads like this, dirt roads. They got hillsides doing this shit. So we're doing all this. We're all laughing and we're being banged around. And after about 3 days, we were doing our first initial War Games mission. We were going to be attacking the 11th Cav. They got some vehicles out there. We're supposed to go hunt them down and then go harass them and all this other good stuff. The gnarliest thing I saw, number 1, I already showed you what the vehicle looks like. Okay. So, stupid PFC Del Mastro, me, Jeff, I'm sitting here in the back of this thing going, boom, and then bang, I hit my head. Oh, fuck. These vehicles are made of aluminum, and they're hard. So I'm like, oh, my noggin, dude. And then, boom, bang, oh, shit. So I said, all right, I took my pile cap, I threw it off, put my steel helmet on. We still had steel helmets that time because, man, I was getting this big knot in the side of my head. I was like, oh, my God. So I strap it on, and I'm in the back of this thing, right? Okay, you see that ramp right there? Okay, that ramp is locked down with a pin. It goes this way and locks into this pin, and it's got this little hook that's like this. So it does this. Clunk, 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 and then there's this metal piece goes up. Now, what you're supposed to do is you've got this big-ass cotter pin. You're supposed to slide that cotter pin while it's hooked so it can't move anywhere. It's like this. Dunk, 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 dunk. So when the vehicle is bouncing up and down, doing this, going up and down those hills and roads, right? That little lever thing is doing this. Dunk, 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 dunk. It's not moving because it can't get past this, right? The lockdown thing. So it's doing this. Dunk, 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 dunk. So, but, because the last guy or whoever forgot to secure the vehicle, forgot to put the cotter pin in. Okay? So, this is kind of like the setup. I'm using this as a setup. So you got the TC right there. Remember that guy that's in the cupola with the 50 cals at right there? This is what he's doing. The driver's up here. We're bebopping along. I only got 4 of these. But there was 6 of us. There's 1, 2, 3. There's another guy here, and there's another guy here. I was right here. Okay? So, we're sitting there bebopping, banging, bopping, and we're hitting these big-ass dunes. I was wearing my steel pot. So, I sit down inside, and I'm hanging on to these 2 straps. We got these 2 straps that hang from the ceiling. Then this is what happened. We hit this one heavy bump going down this hill, and this is what happened. That thing unlatched and did this. Bam! And then the ramp pulled back. The guy that was at the edge, right there, with a soft cap on, got the corner of that fucking ramp smashed on his head. So he's looking out, and this thing went bam! We're talking about a 200-pound aluminum ramp door. Smashed him right in the goddamn head. So since I was sitting across from him, he just falls immediately inside the vehicle, knocked out, and there's blood everywhere. So I'm like, oh shit! I grab a hold of the guy's leg that was the TC. Stop, stop, stop! Because the rest of these guys, they got clocked pretty good, but they saw it move up. They got down, and they smacked their head on the top of the roof of the vehicle trying to scramble. That guy, he stayed up and took the entire hit on his head. So I'm grabbing this guy going, oh shit, he's going, what? And I says, look. And this guy's like this, just blood just pouring out of his head. So we stop, we pull over. Oh my God. So the one guy, I forgot who it was. I mean, I can't remember who these guys were. I can't remember if it was Sergeant Brooks or not. Took off his jacket, took off his BDU top, take his white t-shirt. At the time, we were wearing white t-shirts. We didn't have this stuff yet. And he stuffed it in the guy's head. Now, if you looked real close to the guy's head, his neck was compressed. Holy shit. He was unconscious. He was not doing nothing. We were like, oh my God, get on the fucking radio. It took us, because the equipment is so shitty, it took forever for us to contact the rest of the convoy to stop. So we couldn't get a medevac because we were up in the high hills and there was no flat surface. So we had to drive like little old ladies, this vehicle, this track, to a position where they can medevac him. And it took almost 40 minutes because we had a radio all the way to the back of the convoy. It went all the way back to battalion. Battalion got a hold of the 11th ACR, the 11th Armored Cavalry, and say, we got some guy who might be dead. We need a medevac right now. So they had to get out their maps. They had to pinpoint where they're at. Took them forever to find it because none of our knuckleheads can read a map. Okay? What about you, Jeff? Can you read a map? Yeah, I mean, but the thing was, I didn't know where our starting point was at, so I couldn't really help. So we fired off flares and smoke grenades, and they eventually picked this guy up. And our squad leader went with them, and the company commander went with them. They flew him to Port Irwin. And then they flew him to a hospital, a trauma hospital somewhere in, I think, San Diego. And we didn't know what happened to him. There was blood all over the inside of the vehicle. We actually had to go. We had to take the 5-gallon water cans and just wash all the blood away. And from what I was told, the following drill, we asked what happened to this thing. I think his name was Specialist Muez. I can't remember what his name was, but it was like a Muez. He was a Latino guy. Found out that he fractured 4 vertebrae in his neck. Fractured him. His head was compressed. His neck was compressed. And his head had that. They had to, of course, they had to shave his head. They had to cut into his skull and pull the skull away from the brain, where they can do whatever they had to do. This part of it, I mean, it was like, think of this edge. This is what the skull was edged out like. Imagine that in your head, that they actually had to cut around it, the skin that was already broke, and then carefully pull that bone back. So, and the man lived. We were all told after about 2 or 3 months, we was asking about it. He said, no, he lived. But he was screwed up. His neck, I mean, he had those 4 fractures, and they had to work on his neck. He was in neck traction. They said he was knocked loopy. He doesn't remember what happened to him. And I can guarantee you he got a medical discharge from the friggin' National Guard. I can guarantee that. He never, ever came back. So, and of course, we got all the classes in the world on safety, and that was still not enough to keep more accidents from happening. It was not enough. So, every time we go inside those APCs, those latch locks are checked and double checked. And if they don't have a cotter pin, we put a padlock in it. One of those big fucking steel-ass padlocks. So, there is one example of the gnarliest thing I saw in the National Guard, and I have a lot of them. But that was probably the first one I've ever seen that was the gnarliest at that time period. And then future drills and future war games and annual trainings, I've seen more. Anyway, this is Jeff saying hoo-ah and all this other stuff. And see if anybody cares about this video. Hoo-ah.